I have my little list up on another page. All right. Travis Tom.
Here.
All right. Thanks, Travis. Brian Wong. Brian is absent. George Houston, also absent. Apparently George has had some health issues. He had a heart attack, which is why he hadn't been attending. But he said he thought maybe in a couple weeks or so he would be released to be able to
What
get
a
back to
terrible
work.
excuse.
Well, it's
John, it could have been the cause.
ah, right on. George, John Singletary.
Here.
All right, thanks. John Caldera.
Still here.
All right, Joshua has another meeting, so he'll be joining later. P.T. Wood. Okay. And Terry Faber. Terry is out. And that's it. We actually have quorum, which is good, and we can proceed with the meeting. So we'll start off as we usually do. Let's take a look at the minutes. Hopefully everybody had a chance to do that. With that being said, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So move.
All right. Who was the so mover?
John Singletary.
That was John. All right, John. We've got a motion. And how about a second?
My second, Travis.
All right. Thanks, Travis. And John, motion to accept the minutes is on the floor. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Yeah.
All right. I've got 4.
I support it, obviously.
Oh, okay. 5. That's it. All right, go ahead and lower. The meeting minutes from last meeting are accepted unanimously. Motion carries. All right. So it's a part of our meeting where we have public comment. I see that we have 2 guests. We have Alex G. and Rita Guerrero. Sorry. Do either of you have any comments that you would like to share with the commission before we proceed? And welcome to the commission, a meeting.
I'm not seeing any hands raised, Skip, or questions in the Q&A. So.
All right. Thank you, Annabelle. All right. If you do, take a look at it and go ahead, and you can always submit a comment to Barb Holmes, and her email address is at the bottom of the slide. Thanks. Next. All right. Let's look at, we've got a couple items on the old business. And the first one we want to address is what we were talking about at the beginning before we got the meeting started, was to discuss the criteria that we would want to have Mercer include to do the study for us. Could you switch to the next one? Thank you. So, yeah. let's pass this one up, 'cause I think we actually. So, and some of the ones, and we were kind of throwing some of these around from the last time. These are from Mercer's slide when they did the presentation. There were a couple of them, a few of them that they threw out as possible considerations. Cost of living, the cost of labor, the population, as we pick which groups that we want to have, that we want to look at that are most similar to us as we come to some sort of agreement as to what our salaries should be. Another one was geographic size, geographic location, region, and also including the fact that our legislators and elected officials have a pension, and not all of the states are set up that way. So we wanted to make sure that we included that as one of the criteria. So I would like to go ahead and open it up so we can to discuss which ones of these are most important to us, given that we have some constraints as far as cost and time for this. And John, I recognize you.
Thanks. I'm sure I will be outvoted on this one. I would prefer not to use any outside consultants, given that for a few reasons. One, the cost, and I want to be respectful of the taxpayers' money and our time. Secondly, I am critical of the idea of comparing to other legislatures. We're not in a marketplace where we are hiring people from other states. And so it really doesn't matter to me what other states do. It only matters what Colorado does, and I'm not influenced by what they do in Kansas. Also, if we're going to do some analysis, I'm imagining the staff that we have here could answer a couple quick questions. For me, it's not population or geographic size or any of that stuff. It's how much somebody makes per day in session. What is that cost per day per session? And how long are the comparative sessions if we're going to be looking at other states, which I don't think we should be doing. But if we are, how much does somebody make per day of session seems to be relevant. I want to keep in mind that for my value structure, I value someone who is a member of the private world and not a full-time legislator, that these are volunteer positions like city councils and so many other things. I value people who have real world experience outside of their elected position. So I'll just throw that out there. I suspect I'm kind of lonely in that thought. There you have it.
All right. I do have a question for you based off of that. You had said something about looking at the cost per day. You talking about our state or other states?
I'm saying that it's an if-then statement. If we're going to be looking at other states, which I think we should not do, the only relevant thing from my point of view is how much they get paid per day in session. I think there's a way to compensate our legislators and elected officials by reducing their workload and time rather than costing more money to the taxpayer. I think and so I just want to make sure that's on the docket to look at.
Okay, but that didn't necessarily address the salary issue.
No, it's just that if they get paid, 40 grand a year for 120 days, if they were only in there for 90 days getting the same salary, that is a considerable pay raise.
Yeah, I think what I can kind of agree to what Donna is saying there is that if we want to use a consideration, a comparison to other states, let's compare legislative days they are in session. If we're going to do that, rather than say a cost of living from Kansas to Colorado. So I see where John's going with that one. So a thing we can add into consideration there is how many legislative session days that Colorado is in compared to the other states for comparison.
Okay, so add that is to one of the possible criteria.
And also just that every state government is different by design. Every state government runs itself very, very differently by design. That's why we have 50 laboratories. And it's not like we're looking for a city manager and we want to poach that city manager from Toledo. So we're not looking to outside Colorado to tempt people to move here and take this job. It's an elected a part-time elected position.
Gotcha. All right.
Thanks.
So all right. Thanks, Chuck. So we got that noted for possible criteria is length of session. PT.
Yeah, and I agree with John that the population, geographic size, what other states are doing, not my biggest concern. I think a couple things that I think about, and I've expressed this before, but one, the cost of living, and then two, the cost of leaving your regular full-time job for 120 days a year, plus the other days where you're doing constituent outreach and talking to your community. That just because you're not at the Capitol doesn't mean you're not working either. So there's a balance there. And for regular, normal working Coloradans to see the legislature as a viable thing that they could do, there needs to be some balance there.
Okay.
So I agree with PT there. I think one comparison should be median income, because that would be a comparable as far as the working here in Colorado.
Skip, if
Would
Mr.
that
Johnson
also
could-
would that also be considered the median income as cost of living?
I guess it would be similar.
Okay. Let's I'm gonna combine those two then. Okay.
Skip,
John.
couple of
Singleton.
questions.
Sure.
What's the timeline? I guess what I'm fearful of is we really don't have time to wait for Mercer to give us much information. We're pushing our timeline pretty tightly right now. And I know they mentioned, and I apologize for not being able to attend the last meeting, but what's that timeline? And just to go along, I understand where people are coming from, but a state legislator is worth more and to people in Durango than it is in Denver, where they have several legislators. I think, we have to, you have to look at, and Colorado's a pretty special place. And, but maybe what we ought to do is look at where we are right now and see how out of range it might be. And because I don't know how we're going to be able to adequately discuss anything that Mercer could provide us. I like where they were coming from, but I don't think we have time to do it. I mean, you tell me I'm wrong. That's fine.
We were given a time of 4 to 5 weeks, but that was assuming that we would, and it's also based on the number of criteria that we would be presenting, that we would be asking to be looked at. And it sounds like we're kind of narrowing it down a bit to a more manageable survey.
And then would they narrow the timeline down if I'm not against spending money for good information, but if we're really not going to gain much out of it, there's, I think we might be able to just surmise where we are here and come up with some ideas. But I'm interested in looking what other states do just to know what we're up to. I'm not, I'm not worried about trying to recruit people from other states to come to Colorado. We got too many here now, but so I just kind of want to look at a fair direction for salaries and adequate compensation for people. I mean, people really don't know what a good legislator, how much time they spend. And, you know, somebody mentioned it, 120 days is going to take a real, real piece out of your yearly life in terms of operating a job. And it's easy to say, well, you know, people that we want to just elect people that can afford to do that. I think that's not what we need to be. That's not where we need to be. But we're in a little bit of a quandary here, and I don't, you know, I guess I'm a little questionable about what Mercer brings to the table.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate that. John.
You know, another quick thought. I understand it's a geographically large state. What we're doing right now is meeting virtually. I don't know what the law. I think we ought to make a recommendation at the end of this that people who live far away or anyone can do their work remotely. I don't see any reason why somebody in the four corners of Colorado needs to drive into Denver when most of the work can be done virtually if they don't want to. It's also a way to keep them closer to their jobs and closer to their communities. So again, my theme of trying to make it easier to be an elected official, make a living in the private sector and stay in town. I'm wondering what you guys think about adding as part of compensation suggestion that and I don't know what the statutes are right now for
Yeah.
telecommuting as a legislator. I've seen them in some committees, but I don't know if they do that in the committee of the whole. It just seems like, you know, I understand the points that others are making. We want to make it easier for people to become legislators. Telecommuting certainly makes that possible. I'm wondering if that's something we want to put in this report as well. That's all.
Okay. All right. So what I think John's done, his hand was still up. Barb, should we recap what we have right now for some criteria
Sure,
that
absolutely.
we would be using? We've had some good suggestions.
Okay, recapping, going through my notes, I tried to highlight them all. The daily rate
Okay.
for the legislators in
Mhm.
comparison, if we compare it to other states, looking at the daily rate versus the annual rate because sessions are all different. Per day, how many days they're in session, which lines up with their daily pay. Cost of living or median income.
Mhm.
Trying to make it so, looking at something to make it viable for anybody in the state of Colorado to be able to run for office. And let's see, telecommuting. Yes.
Okay. Daily rate.
Did I miss any? Anybody in the
Telecommuting.
room?
Yeah, it's trying to we did talk about, did you say the median income cost of living? Okay. So daily rate, cost of living, that could be the factors that we could have, because I mean telecommuting wouldn't be well, I guess I wonder if other states are allowing, if they are moving towards telecommuting. That might be interesting
I think the info
to
we can
look at.
use there, I saw some states had a per diem based on travel.
Per
And so I think what he's looking at is, do we compare per diems if they're traveling or not traveling? And so that would be info that we can get from Mercer as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know Colorado legislators have a higher per diem if they live outside of the metro area, which
Yeah.
of course
Correct.
makes sense.
Right.
And whether or not other states have um, um, telecommuting, again, I'll go back to my point. It doesn't matter what other states do. We're Colorado, and we can do whatever we want.
Right. Right. Yeah. Barb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had a question on the daily rate. I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And would we also want to consider, it's called geographic indexing or economic indexing. So would we want to take the daily rate from other states and compare it to the Colorado dollar? So what I'm meaning is, like, in maybe DC, the daily rate is exorbitantly higher because the cost of living is higher. So there's factors that you can consider geographically to index them all to equal Colorado dollars. Would that be something that we want to, look at apples to apples that way?
As far as just having a blanket daily rate,
Well,
irregardless of where you lived in the state.
when comparing salaries, whether it's daily, annually, or not, from other states, often based on cost of living, cost of labor, all of that, it's not
Mm-hmm.
dollar for dollar. Our dollar doesn't go the same, doesn't spend the same, say in DC or California or maybe Washington versus maybe Tennessee. So there's factors that are commonly used to, I don't want to say prorate, to bring all the dollars from other states to Colorado dollars. Okay, let's look at Canada maybe, right? I don't know. Back in
Mm-hmm.
the day, a dollar in the US was worth maybe $1.50 in Canada. I don't know. But
Okay.
using it's from the ERI, Economic Research Institute, ERI index, there's different indexes that Mercer talked about to use to bring the other data sets or the daily rates from other states to the equivalent of Colorado dollars. I apologize. I am not explaining that very well. It's the end of the day. But I think that's something that we need to look at because dollars don't spend the same in every single state. So I love bringing it down to that day by day. Doesn't matter how many days, you make 100, I make 100 or 125, whatever. But we also need to consider that it's in Colorado values.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Any, is there any other possible criteria that we have not discussed that we would want to be included in a survey that Mercer would be doing for us? Barb.
Oh, sorry. One thing I didn't hear talk about today was pensions. Somebody
Oh.
mentioned that quite consistently through other meetings, and my apologies for not
Mhm.
remembering who that was, but is that something that matters?
Yeah, I think that was something Joshua brought up.
How convenient.
Oh,
Blame it on Joshua. But yeah, I think he brought that up. And I was looking at the information today, and there's actually quite a few of the states that do have pensions as a benefit for their legislators. So Josh, since you were here, I think you were looking at that as part of the salary. Is that right?
Part of the compensation, yeah.
Part of the compensation, right? And I do agree that that would be something that we should be looking at as far as the total compensation package. So with those that we put out and pension in as well, what I would like to see us do is to see if one, that based off of what we are selecting for criteria to be included in the survey, is that something that can be done by Mercer in the time frame that we need to do it? And the other thing would be the cost. I mean, we have a fixed ceiling on what we can spend for, and if that information that we want can be done in that time frame and at that cost, are we okay to proceed? Joshua.
Have we made any decisions yet about it? I mean, the bullet point list that I see as possible considerations. Have we made any decisions about what we want to include yet?
Well, the things that we were talking about that we just did a recap on was one was a looking at as far as which other states or other areas that we wanted to look at. We wanted to look at like medium income or cost of living as a comparison. Another thing we wanted to look at, and this was from John, was a daily rate. And the last one was to ensure that including the pensions in the salary survey, that include that as part of the total compensation, and when we're comparing other states or other legislatures and how they're getting compensated. So we can get that to Mercer to see. This is a little more of a narrower criteria that we had originally, because they were kind of going kind of broad because they didn't know what we were thinking. And I think we've narrowed it down quite a bit. And so I do want to see what it is that they can come back with based off of the criteria that we are requesting.
I mean, are we requesting? Have we decided to request population and size and geography and so forth?
No,
Or
we
not?
had
Okay.
we would narrowed it down. So
Okay.
just the ones that I mentioned, and that's what we were talking about. How can we narrow it down? Because we for both cost and for time. So.
Okay.
So Barb, we could get something, we can get a request of them to provide us a cost for, we reach out to them this week? Okay,
Yes.
all right, good. So that's our criteria that we want to include in our scope of work that we're going to present to them, so we can get an accurate proposal from them along with the timeline.
Okay.
Good. Let's move on to, what's our next? Our next old business. Timelines for our next meetings. Barb, you were.
So right here, we just have, if you haven't realized yet, we're switching to weekly meetings due to the time frame that we have. That was something we talked briefly about in our last meeting. And here's the new dates here for the meetings. They're all at 3 p.m. So just wanted to share that with the group here and see if there's any questions or concerns that I can take back.
Joshua.
Do we need to vote on this?
I want to find out if we're okay, if somebody has some particular dates that aren't working.
If I could.
Mm-hmm.
So in economics, there's something called Parkinson's law, which is things fill or shrink to fit the time allotted or the budget allotted. That's why when you keep getting raises at work, you're still broke because somehow your spending budget keeps increasing. If we had a meeting a day, we would still fill it, or if we only had 2 meetings until we come up with this. Personally, I'd love to keep it, seeing that calendar. I'd rather keep it at the current and have 4 instead of 8 meetings or 7 more meetings. Just get down to whatever disagreements or thoughts of policy we have, and just get down to the discussion of our differing ideas and philosophies on it. Because in all this time, we really haven't talked about any particular proposal or keeping the pay the way it is or adjusting it. We haven't had any time talking about that. We've just been talking about consultants and when to have the next meeting and what the consultants should look like. My sense is if we left it to 4 more meetings, it would force us to focus and get right down to where we are feeling and perhaps get to some conclusions. I just think the more meetings we have, the more time we're going to fill.
Okay.
I can agree to what John is saying, is that if in our meetings we can say we need this action and have actionable intel on each one to get it done, we can get it done in the meetings on the current schedule. So yeah, I can say I can agree with John on that one.
Any other thoughts on that?
When would the information be back to us from Mercer?
30 days, sounds like.
So
that would give us 15 days to use the information.
Right. Well, let's say we didn't use Mercer. And we were only doing 4 more meetings. We would essentially would need to break into subcommittees, because we wouldn't be able to do the work, I don't think, in 4 hours. So would people be willing to, do work in between the meetings?
Skip,
Yes.
Yeah.
Skip,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
I think if we defined, I agree with John on what's happened. I think if we defined what we were going to do in these meetings, I have no problem meeting if they're going to be eventful. And, and to sit here and wait 30 days for Mercer, what are we going to do? Just talk to ourselves? I don't know. And you know, at the end of the day, the legislature can either accept what we're saying in whole or part or none of it. Anyway, I don't know. I think we ought to have some real discussions, and I'm fine with 8 meetings, or I'm fine with 4 meetings. That's not a problem. Other than I think they need to be relevant, and I think there's a point to that, and that could be with just discussing, here's where we are today. Here's what's happened since the last time they got a raise. Here's what we need to do on compensation for per diem. I think those are all good thoughts, and we kind of, we're all living here in Colorado. I've been here all my life. We kind of know what the standard of living is. I disagree with John Caldera on trying to limit the scope of what the legislature does. I think they're very important, and I live in rural Colorado, and our legislators mean a lot to us. I mean, I-70 doesn't just go through Denver and so they, legislators need to be able to, I think, talk to each other and get to know each other and discuss what's happening on different things. So if those are, I think those are the kind of topics, if we could do it at meetings, I think that would be valuable, but maybe I'm in a minority on that point.
Okay. And then, oh, PT, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was calling.
Thanks. Sorry if I cut in there.
No, you're good.
So I think, we can spend the time here either way, 4 meetings or 8 meetings, either way, but I think we can get into a really kind of answering the question, how do we want to pay these folks? Do we want it to remain kind of a lightly compensated job that mostly folks that are wealthy can do, or do we want this to be a more inclusive job that the average person can do? We can have those discussions and come up with a philosophy, get the empirical of it, our numbers from Mercer, and plug that back into our philosophy and wrap this up really quickly, I think.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, it sounds like, and I'm gonna throw this out there. It sounds like we don't necessarily want to expand the schedule, but just keep it to the current schedule.
I would suggest that. I think what John
Is
Singletary said makes a lot of sense, in that, let's dive into the meat of this. We all know Colorado pretty well. We know what they're getting paid. Do we think that's appropriate? Do we think it's not appropriate? If we were to change the compensation, how would we do it? In fact, I think it's important for us. This might sound a little odd, not to look at other states, because I think we want to be. I don't think we want to be influenced by what other states do. I think we ought to be homegrown about what we think Colorado legislators ought to do. And again, they can take our recommendations, they can throw them out the window. It's this is just this is just an advisory committee. We don't have any real power. So I'd rather just get to the meat of it and get these meetings. Not that I don't enjoy your conversation, but I'm sure we all have lots of things we got to get done.
You're being nice, John. I'm sure you don't
Yeah.
like our conversation.
Only Travis's and Joshua Sharf. I don't want to listen to them. Everybody else I find very.
I will
wise.
say I did speak to a state senator over the weekend, and the indication was that they would take the input from this committee exceptionally seriously. So,
Well,
You know, I
Okay.
don't think they'll just throw it out the window.
True, but
well, yeah,
what else are they gonna say?
good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
Maybe
the
as
other,
a compromise, let's have two meetings and we dial in on what John and I guess myself were talking about in the next two meetings. And then make a decision if we need to have 6 more meetings after those two. But right now, we're just kind of treading on a treadmill, I think. And maybe if we could put on our agenda next week, let's look at what the salary is today and discuss what we think it should be in the future. And the same thing with the per diem and the other issues. Maybe that's what our agenda ought to be in the next meeting or two. And then if we need to go from there and we need 6 meetings, the remaining part of it, that'd be fine. I mean, is that a compromise suggestion?
that sounds
I like that.
reasonable. The one thing I would like to do, the thing that I notice is a lot of these, like the salary or the per diem, they're kind of like they're hard numbers, and that they don't. I would like to ensure that we have a way for them to be tied to something that will allow them to adjust over that 4-year time, so that it's just not always locked for the 4 years between the commission's meeting. So that's something that's important, I think, to me, you know.
We'll make that an agenda item and we can discuss it.
Yeah.
So I think really ultimately today, we really want to see, are those considerations what we want to analyze the salaries to? Cost of living, median income, legislative sessions. I think those are the 3 key topics that we had, so that we can move forward in analyzing those for Colorado, for the days that we're working in Colorado, and then ultimately, yes, some comparison to other states, feasible or not.
And I agree with John on that. I don't think we need to compare ourselves to other states, but it's kind of interesting to see what other states do. I don't think it's bad to have a guideline there, but Colorado's Colorado, and we have a really a good set of population in Colorado, which is different than other states. I don't mind at all looking at, say, Minnesota, for example, because they're pretty close to our same size, but we're still Colorado, and there's certain duties that we have in Colorado they don't have in Texas or Wyoming or whatever. And one thing just to throw out there that makes a difference to the legislators is the compensation coming from per diem, which is very important to them if you live out of the city. But if you were to use salary as a basis for, say, borrowing money on a house, you're limited to whatever that salary is. You don't get any credit for having per diem in terms of your income. Just keep that in mind. That's all.
Yeah, Joshua.
That's partially true, but they come to that's it depends on how the per diem is structured.
That's true. That's true, and maybe we need to look at that. That's a good point.
But also, I mean, I think there's a well, we'll talk, but we'll get in more into the meat of it. We'll talk about this. But yeah, no, I mean, I think taking a look at what other states do is useful. It's certainly what the previous commission did. I think it's useful in as much as it gives us, something to, how do people in general view their state legislators? And do they view them as, I mean, is this a full-time job that they only show up, 4 months a year to the Capitol, or is it a part-time job and they hold down other stuff? And how other, I'm not sure, again, I'm not sure that, I think how we want to think of that may be unique to us or distinctive to us. But, at the same time, I'm not sure that a state legislator in Oklahoma is dealing with stuff that's that's on a regular basis, any less complicated. Oklahoma, maybe, I don't know if that's a
Right.
part-time or full-time, but just to
Right.
pick a state at random, I don't know that what they're doing is very different from what the state legislator in Colorado does. I don't know if the state
Yeah.
legislator in Wyoming what he's really doing is very different from what,
Right.
the guy in Colorado does.
But I'm just, there may be different, you're right. I think they all have the same thing of how do they, fairly compensate legislators, so that people who aren't of means can participate.
Right.
They may come up with different solutions for it. So,
Well, that's also something we want to discuss. I don't,
mechanisms.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I don't know I don't know what the average outside income is of the state legislator
Right.
here in Colorado. I don't know what the average. I don't know what I don't know what their 1040 looks like. No, shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we've got about 5 minutes. We had one item. I think we had one new item also we need to confirm as far as the next meeting, which is the 28th. So new business. We talked about the revised calendar, and it sounds like that we were going to just go ahead and keep the current calendar moving forward. And I still would like to have Mercer come in towards the end of our meeting, because I want to present that to them, so that they could give us a costing and time on that. And a reminder from Barb that our report's due in December the 15th. So. There any other pressing concerns?
Yeah, so I guess on that final report, how does that get written? What's our input on the structure? What's that look like?
Mm-hmm. We haven't really discussed that. So Barb, are we writing we're writing the report?
Yes, I believe it's one of the responsibilities of the commission is to write the report and submit to a variety of boards, the JPC, the OSPB, the governor's office, etc. And I know that as the admin, I would write the report based on everything you all say to put in the report. What format do you want? Topics, bullets, all that kind of stuff. So I would do the actual putting it together, but you all would do all the content.
Okay.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
So it's a blank piece of paper right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have the old report as far as that format, I guess, is a starting point, but let's get an agenda item on there where we can just talk about the actual the report format that we would like to put this into.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Oh, sure.
Are we still moving forward with having Mercer do the analysis? Or I know we talked about, there was a conversation about doing it ourselves. I'm not sure. It's not clear in my notes what I've been writing. I might have missed that. So clarification would be great.
My,
Thank you.
my sense was that we will move on without Mercer's report put together, what we think is necessary, and if we need clarification, then ask Mercer. Was that what we were talking about? Because I think we wanted to get rolling on coming up with our ideas and disagreements and pushing forward with that first. At least that was what I heard. Perhaps I heard differently.
Did we
Okay.
already vote
I
on
thought-
use Mercer?
We did. We did.
And so-
vo- yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we had done that, but however, I thought we were still going to ask them if that was something that they could do in a timeline that would work for us. What, well, we could, but the thought was we wouldn't just be sitting there waiting. We could still proceed. And if they present something that we thought would be of value to us, we could do it. And if not, we could move on with the way we were going. That's the way I heard the conversation.
Yeah, I feel like we can do most of the work, but it would be good to have just some of that professionally quantified information to lean into one way or the other at the end.
Mm-hmm. Because it's possible, like you were saying, PT, that the scope of what we would need for them might change. So,
What kind of dollars are we talking about, you think?
well, I'm not exactly sure what they would come back with based off of what we just talked about today that we're going to present to them. But I know what we have right now. We have $19,000 available total for resources as a commission.
So we can split $19,000 among the 7 of us. I think that's perfect. If you need to give me that in an Amazon gift card in order so that nobody finds out, that's fine too.
It's good, because what could possibly go wrong there? So yeah. So anyway, yeah, just curious to see what they would come back with. So.
I'm okay with that, but I think we really need to, on our agenda in the next meeting, really start honing in on some of the things we talked about today. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and I don't mind the backup. I don't, just because we got 19,000 there, if we don't need to spend it all in one place, I mean, if they can do it for 10, they should. Just because,
Right.
and,
Yeah, understood.
Sometimes when people know they got 19,000, that's what they shoot for. I'd like to have their information, but I want to be treated fairly with it. They're experts. They're experts, and I honor them for that, but I don't want them to overcharge us.
Would it be
Right,
worthwhile
right. Well,
next time that we each put out just as a starting point, what we think would be a good policy change or a good salary or whatever it is, just to get something on the whiteboard that we can start arguing about and maybe kind of agree on which things we value the most.
Okay. And we have what they currently have.
Right.
Yeah, that's a starting point.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we ought to throw something up on the board and argue about it, and then add and subtract from it, and it'll be messy, but I think it'll give an idea of where everyone's heads are at.
Yeah, messy's all right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. We're running a little over. So I would go ahead and take a motion to adjourn. And
I'd make that motion.
All right, we got a motion
And also process your own emotional reaction.
and do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you all. Good conversation. We'll see you next time, and then we'll see what we can come up with.
Skip, thanks for your patience and leadership.
Oh, you're welcome. No, this has been a good experience.
I agree with John. So when we split up that extra $19,000, you get an extra $100, Skip. So
Oh, man, you're too good, John.
all right. Hey, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Bye.